This is it? The finale, I guess. Unless it's not. I mean, you know more than I do, because of video titles and whatnot. But it seems like kind of a big deal. That might even mean that whatever person comes out of this one might be the survivor, as opposed to the other dozen or so that have been melted by the weird blue vortex and cloned somewhere else by some other person that thinks nothing has gone wrong. Except for all the deaths I've had, I guess. The more obvious ones, which are also canon. That's distressing, right? Like, in Portal, your deaths are non-canon, normally. You just kind of go back in the video game sense to where you were before, and, you know, that wasn't the real timeline, because in the real timeline, you succeed, right? Like Mario. But this one straight up acknowledged all of my deaths. That means they'll really happen?
Welcome to the final chamber. Don't get overwhelmed. Take everything one step at a time, and you will soon find the solution.
So even if you don't put stock into the teleporter problem, you still have to deal with the fact that, like, I'm not the same person that started this test. I've died multiple times. You gotta do a permadeath run where you just go the whole thing without dying, and that's the only way to get through. Time portal only. But not now. I guess you have to press the button to turn it on or something? That's weird. Yeah, all my portals are active at the moment. Okay. By the way, is the barriers mechanic ever going to come up again? Because I don't see it in here. I was waiting for... maybe there. That's the exit, isn't it? I've been waiting all game for it to come up again. Maybe it shouldn't be in that one level as a puzzle mechanic. It's only a puzzle mechanic for that one confusing level after being barely introduced at the beginning of the game. Like, they could have just not. Because if the rest of the game is just used as a transition between before and after each chamber, as just an explanation for why you can't do this during the hallways that connect chambers, then, like, don't use it once in the middle of a puzzle chamber that's required to solve it, and then only that one time. Because that felt like a mishandled mechanic when I got to that level at the time and realized what was going on. But now it feels even more like a mishandled mechanic because I'm in chamber 25 out of 25. But this is Portal. It's worth remembering whenever you play Portal 1, especially, that 50% of the playthrough is the final level where you break out and do a big escape sequence. That's like 50% of the duration of the entire game. So, you know, maybe there's more after this final level. Only one way to find out. B-frames. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 lasers, laser walls, like from Phantom Menace, Killer of Qui-Gon, and yeah, Killer of Qui-Gon. There's 4 of them on the way to my goal. No apparent. Doesn't look like there's much like chance to, like, yeah. There's not any portal walls here, which is the wall. Well, there's that one. That's about it though. That's the wall that faces that, so you probably can't use the bridge that. The repulsor graviton thingy to get over there. So you do have to walk through all 4 of those, which makes sense. That's what you'd expect. That's what you would expect. So now we gotta focus on how to do each of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 3. So laser beam goes there somehow. So the opposite wall is like either there or there. And there's no portal surfaces there, so I think we have to get a portal. I think we need to use this thing to push a block, like, against there or there, whatever lines up. And then the laser beam would be connecting through there? Huh. It's pretty in the middle of the room. The wall's all the way over here, so it wouldn't even be pushed against the wall. Maybe there's a light bridge somewhere around here? It has to line up with that. Unless I'm supposed to, like, fucking Just time it correctly. But anyway, that one's 3. Here's 1. Okay, here's 1. Then, let's see. Is this a laser cube? Okay, so we're using at least the laser cube, which means, yeah, and lasers, and the gravity thing. No sign of a light bridge. There's a light bridge. Okay, so there's a light bridge, there's a gravity, there's a laser. It's what you'd expect. You'd expect every mechanic to show up again. Here's a laser wall receptacle. Here's the spinny boy. So I have to shoot it diagonally through this one, probably, to activate 2. Because they're together. The pool of acid is here, and or waste. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Where's 4? This will activate a light bridge at some point, presumably. No cake and no being crushed by spikes, but everything else is here. Dispenser, a bounce pad apparently is somewhere around here. Gravity thing. Light bridges somewhere, yeah. Haven't found 4 yet. Curious. 1, 2, 3. Hello. Welcome to the poopier place. 1, 2, 3. There's no light thing, there's no gravity thing here, so if I do this, I'll just lose the cube that's already here, which I could otherwise use. There is a light bridge in the future, though. Okay. That's interesting. So the light bridge does exist in the future, so if I want the light bridge, I need to summon it here. And then move that accordingly. Where's the laser? There's a laser up there. So if I want... Okay, so beam would be like this. There's no wall over there, so I'd have to do a different angle for the laser. And then redirect it. Okay, now we have that laser. But the height of the laser is weird. Was it gonna be good enough? No. Unexpected problem. Okay, I need the laser to be down there. Staircase? Good enough? Make the portal a little higher, maybe? There we go. I had to make that portal a little higher. Because it just isn't lined up perfectly. There's been a few issues with that. But when making the portal a little higher makes it a little lower in the laser a little lower in the portal, which means it'll actually connect now. I can now go through 1. I don't know if walking through 1 will actually accomplish anything, but it's there. Wow, I did it. Pip pip cheerio. Okay, so that did nothing. So do I have to have 1 and 2 active at the same time? Because interestingly, 2 has the time portal thing, implying I'm supposed to do something through there. One thing that comes to mind is that maybe I would solve the... I don't know. I can imagine solving the laser puzzles of 1 and 2 in one world, and then going to the other world for 3 and 4 being solved. Then if I have time portal in the middle of this, I could be like, oh yeah, walk through these 2, then time portal and walk through those 2 in the other world or something. If that is what they're going for, which maybe it's not. What's interesting is I am going to need the other worlds. So I'm gonna need the other world's cube, which I think I can get via here. Yeah, so now there is a thing coming in, except it's going the wrong way. It comes out of whatever surface I put it on, so I need to put one around here to make it come back, and I can't do that. And I can't fight the current, right? No. That's just gonna drop. This is here. Is that interesting? No, because it was just pushed away. That still doesn't help me. It's pushing away, so I have to do it somewhere around here. Or I have to figure out how to reverse the beam, but that doesn't seem like a mechanic yet. Oh hey, there's 4. There you are. That's pretty straightforward. Push it up, you press the button. Okay, so now, 1, 2, 3, 4. The most confusing part being potentially the idea that it certainly would seem like I need to solve these while walking through these doors. I don't see how you would have all of these doors solved simultaneously. There is only 1 or 2 lasers total. And these are receptacles, so when the beam goes into them to activate them, it stops, and you can't use the beam anymore for anything else. You could bounce it somewhere else on the way there, but it's only useful for stuff like this, where it goes through. You can't bounce it over here to solve puzzle 2, then bounce back to 1, because it would be stuck. It would just be terminating in 2 instead of 1. So at most, I can activate 2 of these at the same time via a laser beam. And even that has the complication of every time I move this box, the other one will vanish. So that's fucky. Also. Okay, so I already solved 1. I was focusing on trying to get 2. I'm not entirely... Okay, no. I've realized my mistake. I focused on the gravity beam. See, we got a lot of moving parts here to think about. I focused on the gravity beam when I should be focused on this. There it goes. Because this universe has the light bridge, and so that's how I get this one. It doesn't matter that the gravity beam's impossible. So now I can take this back into the other world, and then there's no second laser, is there? That was a bit of a hypothetical when I was talking about using this world's beam. So I can't use this world's laser. So at best I can have... so I can have a second box, but who cares? Huh. I can think of one use for this box, which is the fact that when that moves, it gets destroyed. So I can create a switch. If I put this one over there and solve puzzle 2 with the past cube, and then put the future cube here to solve puzzle 1, then if I do anything that moves this one a bit, that one will disappear. Which means I could potentially reset the puzzle so that it switches from opening door 1 to opening door 2, allowing me to walk through here, then through here. The question is how. I'm presumably using this one to solve that one, In which case, how am I going to like nudge this one in a way that makes this one disappear without this one not being able to solve the puzzle anymore? Like, I still need to solve this. So this is how I solve it. For 2. There he is. Yeah, the beam's damage is very selective. Okay, so I need this to happen. Then I go get number 2 and I interrupt the sequence. But then how am I going to reset it? There's no portal walls here. That one's there. But the wall's there, which would be hard to interact with. Like, the best I can think of is to use this thing to nudge it slightly, hopefully moving it so little that it still solves the puzzle. I'd have to do it so fast that it only moves like an inch to the left and doesn't stop solving the puzzle. Which I could do via like this and this. Huh. No, So right click stays in the same place, left click moves. I can move the blue portal to there really temporarily, then put on like the wall or something just so it drops it immediately. That'll make this one disappear. And then I can put it back up there to make the beam fire again. I can't move the orange beam, the orange portal, or I'll lose the beam entirely. Now the question is, can I make this part line up? Because of other problems? This is where my plan runs into problems. What do I do about the height difference between these two? You can't like aim up and down with beams. This would be an alternative. This would be an alternative to me destroying the cube, is the fact that I can change the height of the beam. Which almost, I don't know, it must be intentional, because there's clear height difference of how you solve these things. But the problem is when I'm up here, I can't fire the portal to do that. I can't go through portal 1, then move, can't go through gate 1, then move the portal. The best I can do is move this up and down a bit, which doesn't seem to be working very much. I don't seem to be able to quite recreate the problem we had before. Unless this is... Oh, this is at a height that both work. That's at a height that both work, okay. That seems a little finicky, but okay. So now I need to move it slightly. It doesn't line up. No. Damn it. My attempt to turn it back took too long. I can't tell if this is what they want from me or if I'm having a really contrived weird mess of a solution or what. What about it like back here? Like that's interesting, right? I don't have to be on the wall. That's just the first wall I thought of. There's other walls I could use. Except maybe I do, because it still has to be down there somehow. But even if it is, I could set up an orange portal here to do this one, then move the orange portal to there to the next one. So it's just not a cube reset, but it still is a solution that's multi-stage, which works. So part one. This is way cleaner than the last thing I had. Part two. Ta-da! What was that? Okay, so this is a green portal wall that you activate with a button, I guess. So that just means you can't shoot it up here. Which is weird, because, like, why not be able to shoot it up here myself? Like, it's not like I can reach it. The beams are gone. Or the beams are up. Okay. So it's a good thing I found a pretty clean solution for part 1 and 2, because I'm gonna have to do them again probably, because like I can't get down. Like, cool, I made it this far. Now what? Like, I'm locked on I'm up here on a ledge. They gave me the ability to go between the two worlds. I'm not sure why I want that ability right now. I don't know how I'm supposed to get past these two. Okay, so 3 is a levitating one. Which I think means that they want me to be able to use the light bridge to... It must be the light bridge. Like, you might move it around with the gravity tubes, but you'd have to use the light bridge to hold it in place, pointing the beam in that direction. Because there's no portal spot to make the beam go that way. That's 3. And then 4 is the easiest one. You just levitate something up there. You might be able to make a situation where the past cube is floating up here, and then it's just not moving anymore. So you're like, okay, we can leave that static and solve this part of the puzzle with the other cube. God, I'm not even sure if that would work. Because, like, the operation of floating a cube up by the laser spot is a 2-portal solution. And then levitating the cube up into the button is also a 2-portal solution. If I set things up right, I could use the light bridge from the other world to, like, hold it in the right height long enough to go through the gate, because otherwise it'd be like really quick how long it would be keeping that way, right? It's probably I'd probably die trying to go through the gate. Man, I think that means I could have just solved it without jumping down if I hadn't have moved this with beams and stuff when I was experimenting. I think I could have done it. Very tricky. Alright, so back to this problem. That covers both of you. And levitating it straight up, so it'll light that up on the way, then it'll press the button when I move the light bridge. I haven't planned out the light bridge stage completely, but I think I can figure it out. Okay, so the light bridge is from this world. How am I going to set up the laser and the No. We should be good on the laser because the laser is directly overhead, so it'll fly directly into the laser. I don't have to portal the laser, I just have to portal the gravity thing. So from my perspective, gravity's pretty easy. Click, click, and then it's going up. But I have to stop it there. And this is the past, so that sucks. Because when I put the portals there to move those, that'll also affect the portals in the future. Which is how I'd be getting the light bridge up there. So let's practice a bit. So there's our light bridge. So in this timeline I go boop boop. Then I quickly run over there. Oh boy. Because if I change the future ones, the past ones stay the same. So I go boop boop, press that button, then quickly go boop. God, this is complicated. I keep losing my place. So in this timeline, I set up this beam, which I have to do first, because if I change it afterwards, this will go away. So click here and here to make that happen. If I screw this up, it'll get dropped, and then it'll get out of alignment, and it won't work anymore. So I have one try, and then I have to start over. So click, click, left, right. That's the gravity beam. Go here, press the button. Then in that world, click there and there, then come back and middle click here, and that should be right. Maybe. No. God damn it. So I know that's across from that because the beam's connecting the bridges, but it looks like the bridge is under the lights. No, the beam is under, isn't it? Because this is the square. Yeah, that's the upside. That's like why they gave the tiled outsides of everything. It lets you line things up. So this row is where the bridge is. You can follow the way through here. So this is where the bridge is. Like that's the square, and this is specifically slightly under the square. It's weirdly placed like that. So yes, okay. So no complications. It works how I first thought it would. I thought the beam was higher than the bridge because I couldn't. It really looks, it's hard to tell without having to check everything around it because they're both just transparent. Okay, so once again, it's stressful because I don't want to mess it all up. So I'm gonna do click, click, press the button and run through, click, click, run back through, middle mouse. No! Fuck. What's wrong with my plan? The beam is going into that. Wait, what the fuck? You can even see the beam. Come on, man. This game could use some polish. Is this portal like at the wrong height? Is that what's going on? Motherfucker. There's wiggle room. Okay, that's really irritating. There's a lot of vertical wiggle room moments that make these puzzles not work. I'll just try anyway and see if it works out. But now I have to drop it and hope it doesn't fall off. It's going to. Ah, fuck, that overrides the other portal anyway, so I'm fucked. Ah. Okay, let's start over. Again. To be very careful. That's my bad, I should have tested that. It's just like, oh man, you have a really good idea here. It'd be nice if it didn't have you fail for reasons other than your solution being wrong. Because that makes it frustrating. Okay. God, I hate that I have to just hope it all lines up. So aim low, I guess. So click, 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 click. So these two, no. Get it all right in one go. Okay, so gravity, left, right. Then go through. So left, right, button, go through. Left, aim really low. Right, middle. We'll come back through, then middle. No! Alright, let's do it again. I flubbed my, because middle mouse is a little bit of an awkward button. I flubbed it a bit and fucking left clicked at the same time. I fat fingered it. How did I mess that up? I guess I'm just... Yeah, I'm just redoing it too many times now, aren't I? So now I'm getting sloppy and missing steps. Left, aim low. Right, middle mouse, or vice versa. Okay. What? I knew something was wrong when I saw the weird cube there. I don't... fuck it, let's start over. Let's not even think about it too hard. I don't know what happened. Did I really fuck this up? Don't fuck it up this time. Left, right, button, left, right, middle mouse. Yes! Yes! Finally. Ah! Okay, we made it. So now all I do is remove the portal that has the time gate. Right? And then it flies up to there. This is the easy part. Look, it's diagonal, it's weird looking. Okay. That did two things. It created a portal surface there, and it gave me this. which also has that portal surface. Okay. So, like... Where's the one in this world? Over there, on the ground. Okay. I was wondering where it would go, because it can't be where this one is in the sky. It seems straightforward, right? It's one of those things where you turn it off and it's gonna fall into that portal, which is good. And then come out of that one. And then fly at me, right? And then I just catch it? That seems really straightforward. What's worrying me is I can't tell what the angle's gonna be like here. I'm hoping that it just goes, it's going so fast at that point that it's almost horizontal at that point. Because if it drops too far, it'll get caught in the stupid vortex. And then I'll have to start the entire puzzle over. And this is not a fun feeling to think about. Let's find out. Hey! He's here. Da 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 da. I'm so tired. This puzzle made me so tired. There's 2 marks on the door, so the button has to stay pressed. So this has to be the other cube. There it is. Where the fuck did you come from? How do I make the second cube do that? Without the tractor beams? If I could like throw it over there, then I could just recreate the beams. And it would go up there and press the button, but that's like not reasonable. Can I just jank this up? Maybe. Maybe. Oh shit, do I have a fix? Is it gonna work? I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Gotta time it perfectly. Probably? Yeah. Yes. Yes! Oh, I felt so defeated. Did it just teleport to facing that? That's interesting. That's interesting. I guess it's like a quality of life thing. There's definitely some like little moments where you can see them kind of force certain things happening. That was interesting. You could see the cube teleport into the correct direction to beam that way. So that's how they make that part of the puzzle more doable, is that it actually tries to rig itself a little bit. That's interesting. So we're good, right? Yes?
Astonishing. You really did it. You've proven to be capable of nearly anything. Now it's time for your real mission.
Uh-oh.
We will put you back in stasis until the day of the incident, and you will be the one to prevent it. This vacuum tube will take you back to the long-term human storage vault. You will be awoken when the time comes to use your special abilities to save this facility from its impending doom.
Bye. You're not gonna get 2 more decades out of me, boyo. Time for the usual escape from GLaDOS moment, I guess.
You are going the wrong way. Please be aware that escaping is not an option here. You are far too important.
That was a green field, so that just gave my...
If you won't go voluntarily, we will be forced to destroy your current body in order to put you back together in the stasis chamber.
Uh-oh.
But this will be a small price to pay in order to help save the facility.
Oh.
Think of it as a sacrifice to science. Thank you, and goodbye.
Careful. Careful. Yep. Oh god, where am I going?
Warning. You are deviating from your path.
Whoa. Whew.
Facility power has reached critical levels. Connection unstable.
Yeah. Yeah! Get me out of here. Don't. Yes, do. You can't stop me now. Oh. Hey. An even more explicit reference to the idea that Black Mesa and Aperture Science exist in the same universe. There's been Easter eggs, but it's been still foggy. But I believe that when you're escaping from GLaDOS as Shell in the first game, when you're trying to, like, you don't even want to know what it's like up there, and so on. Not even I really know, or whatever, but it's like, there's like a sense that the world has ended upstairs. And the way that it ended is likely the fact that the 7 hour... Was it 7 hour? The 7 hour war happened, and humanity was taken over in the aftermath of Half-Life, leading up to Half-Life 2. The Portal 1 presumably takes place in parallel with Half-Life 2, where the world is gone upstairs. And Portal 2 takes place, I guess, in the distant future? Because of Shell being in stasis again, which I think was the confirmation that the, if nothing else, that just, like, she's never going to show up in a Half-Life game. Because she's outlived the entire Half-Life franchise, presumably. I still hold on to this dream that the portal gun will show up in Half-Life. I don't know if it would be the best fit necessarily to I mean, you could. Having the portal gun in Half-Life would be interesting as a parallel to the gravity gun, where you could have it be 2 things at once, essentially. One, it would be like a Bulletstorm / Doom style, like, here's your new special tool for combat trick, where it's like, you have to use your portal gun to, like, outflank your enemies and do a bunch of clever, nasty things and outmaneuver them and just really change combat by being able to create portals while you're fighting, which would be neat. But they could also, much like how Half-Life Alyx was full of secrets, Half-Life 3 could be full of secrets in the form of, like, these optional portal puzzles and so on and so forth, which would be kind of fun. Admittedly, there is the thing where supposedly portals can only be used on these like moon rock coated surfaces that gave Cave Johnson cancer and all that. So I don't know the fucking rules. All I know is that for a long time there was the it's the running gag that Valve can't count to 3. So they had Left 4 Dead 2, Team Fortress 2, Portal 2, Left 4 Dead 2, Half-Life 2, and even Half-Life 2 Episode 2. Like, the number of franchises that had stopped at 2 was fucking hilarious. So at some point, especially someone without radio silence, they were for so long, I kind of had this fantasy idea that, like, much like the Orange Box, they were going to release a box that was just called 3. And it was going to be Portal 3, Left 4 Dead 3, Team Fortress 3, whatever other 3s I might be forgetting right now, Half-Life 3, and comically, I even talked about there being like Half-Life 2 Episode 3 and Half-Life 3. Like, there's an episodic expansion of the Half-Life 2 episode series that is Episode 3, that is done in that engine and style and graphical fidelity, but then Half-Life 3, that's a proper current generation game, and like it'd be like to have them forcing themselves to make a throwback game that's in 2007 graphics just to finish the Half-Life episodes trilogy was just really fucking a funny thought. But that was just kind of mostly just silly stuff, but it was just the idea that like the Portal and Half-Life universes, the Portal and Half-Life franchises would just kind of merge, and it's based on my fanboyism of just really liking Portal a lot. And it's like, hey, you already got your gimmicky gravity gun, and like now Half-Life Alyx came out, and you have like the Alyx gloves, and it's like it feels in character for the franchise at this point for the Portal gun to be in some kind of Half-Life spin-off or even mainline title. Because while Shell will presumably never appear because she goes off into the future to do Portal 2, the technology from here could exist. What if Gordon Freeman or Alyx got access to a portal gun? I don't know. This little rant brought to you by the fact that the fucking head crab zombies showed up in the end of this one. Old school ones too, Half-Life 2 ones, which makes sense because this is based on a 2011 game. I wouldn't really expect them to import the Vance, the Alyx models, and so on, even if it was pre-rendered. Well, we did it. Portal Reloaded. It has a really interesting puzzle idea that breaks my brain, but the puzzles actually went from pretty hard to easier and easier as we reached the end of the campaign. And while I would love to be like, it's because I'm just so smart and got so used to the game and I mastered it, I really do think that the puzzles were just kind of getting less challenging. I don't know if that's because the later puzzles were a bit less inspired, or if the earlier puzzles were just kind of not really a reasonable difficulty curve. It might be the latter, honestly. Some of the early ones were so rough to think about, and the aha moment of doing the crazy trampoline trick at the beginning of the game was really, that's a hell of a eureka moment, but it might have been a little early to pull that kind of trick. Definitely some stuff that I would see as just outright flaws, like the fact that now I've beaten the game, so I can confidently say the whole thing where going through barriers turns your time gun on and off is a pointless mechanic. They only use it once. Other than that, it's just a story thing. And so, like, if they just left it as a story thing, like, oh yeah, in the transitional hallways between rooms you can't use the time gun, then that would be fine, because that'd be okay. Like, honestly, even without remembering the explanation from earlier in the game, you've probably heard me during that one time we did use portals between chambers. I was just kind of accepting of the idea that I can't use the time gun between chambers, like they turn it off. And at that time, I had forgotten that the barriers actually literally do that. But I was just accepting of that. Like, it just made a vague, intuitive sense of like, yeah, it makes sense that they wouldn't let me do that when I'm not in a puzzle chamber. You're just used to that kind of limitation in games. But having one puzzle that requires you to understand how those barriers works is crazy. Especially since, as far as I can tell, they explained how that mechanic works in like chamber like 9 or whatever. Or I don't remember. I don't know what chamber it was, but it was the beginning of part 2 of this playthrough, and I think the mechanic when it actually came up was in part 4 of this playthrough, so it was at least over an hour later in the game. Like several test chambers later, it comes up once as a puzzle mechanic, and then never again. And it's like, oh, like one is an important part of portal tutorialization, which is that you don't just tell somebody how something works, you show them and you make them do it. And you only let the player continue forward when they've confirmed that they know how to do it. So I was actually kind of thinking about that. Like, what are some suggestions of how you would test your player's knowledge of going through the green and orange barriers? And the main thing that comes to mind is that I thought of this idea that you could create a maze, essentially. There's 2 different things that came to mind. One, I was thinking like you could set up a room where you could easily go around the barrier, and so like the room has an optional barrier and it's just sort of free floating, in, like it sticks out into the room like a cubicle, and you can just walk around it. And so intuitively, maybe make the most obvious path walking around it. But then you can't use your time gun. You're like, why? It's fucking let me use my time gun. And then the explanation can come there about how to use the time gun. And then you're like, oh, and you walk through the barrier, and then suddenly your time gun works. And like, oh, here it goes, it's on again. Like that would be informative. You're like, oh, this thing turns my time gun on and off. Like that'd be one way to establish the mechanic. And then maybe the next chamber would then test that by creating a maze. So there's just an empty open room with an entrance and an exit. But the only way to solve the puzzle is to travel through time at the end of the puzzle. But there's an entire maze of time portal deactivation barriers, and so you have to like navigate the entire room, which wouldn't be that big of a thing, but just to be like a minor inconvenience, not like some genuine massive labyrinth or anything. But you'd have to like walk to the end of the room without touching any of the barriers, because if you touched one, which you would do intuitively if you didn't realize the consequence yet, if you touched one, it would turn off your portal ability, and then when you got to the end of the room, you couldn't do it to change dimensions. So then you'd have to go back and then walk through the maze without touching any of them, and then it would work at the end. I'm not sure if that would work, honestly. That was just a thing that came to mind for a second, but if every single wall toggles your portal, then I'm not sure how you'd work it out so that at the end you only succeed if you understand the mechanic. And I also don't know how you communicate that you'd have to travel through time in order to escape at the end. I guess it'd have to take place in the future, and there'd be something that's clearly broken. I don't know, it's just workshop. This is off the cuff shit. Obviously, it doesn't have to be like a perfect idea. But really, more importantly, they could just cut that puzzle, because it only happens once, and it's not only is it not tutorialized well by the campaign, it never comes up again. The closest thing to coming up is that in the ending of the entire game, when I do my gravity thing to evade my rehibernation, it slowly floats me through a big field that reactivates my time portal. That's the only payoff, and I don't think that understanding that moment is even entirely necessary for beating that little segment. I don't think you necessarily even have to understand that that's what's happening, because it's not like you really needed to use the time portal before that when it was technically disabled. At best, you could have used it to break the level or something, but like people going through on their fresh run, I don't think that was confusing, so I don't think that needed to be understood fully. So that was a gripe. It's just like that mechanic just not being explained properly. The other stuff is mostly just sanding edges. Admittedly, I don't love the fact that the final puzzle is a giant sequence that has to be performed perfectly from beginning to end, and if you trip a single time, you have to start the entire thing over. It's like you're building a house of cards. I don't like house of cards puzzles, where you build a house of cards and every single movement has to be perfect, and every time you mess up, you have to start the entire process over. That's just every game. Like once you hit a certain number of steps, it's just really frustrating if one mistake starts the whole thing over. But much more significant was that there was just inconsistencies in the game that I don't think I remember seeing in other games. So how do I put this? Because I've played Mel, and I don't have like fresh memory of these things, but I played Portal 1, Portal 2, Portal 2's co-op, and Mel, and I can't really remember moments where a slight like Portal movements had like verticality problems the way this game did, where a laser would drift up and down a bit, or like I had that thing where I did my big House of Cards puzzle and the stupid fucking light bridge didn't transmit when I needed it to, because somewhere in the sequence a portal was slightly higher or lower than it needed to be. Because it's like, these are these, look at these tiles on the screen right now. These tiles are supposed to be the size of a portal. In some cases you can move them go left and right, but they're not supposed to be able to go up and down when it's just one tile. Like that area on the right has multiple vertical tiles above each other and below each other. That's where you can go up and down. But these ones on the left, on the top left here, that's one portal of tile. So it shouldn't be able to wiggle up and down. And so there was that one laser puzzle about halfway through the game. I think it was the one right before the one that has the poorly explained mechanic problem. Because I think I called that one like rough parts or whatever the hell. Because that was like the weakest part of the game was that episode. Maybe the weakest part of that game. And like in that one, like I did it right. I had the portals lined up correctly to make the laser go into the receptacle, and it was just hitting the wall right below the receptacle, and it's like, why is it tilting? Or why is it not aligned correctly? What's going on here? And then that came up again in the final puzzle when I did this big House of Cards sequence, and then had to start the whole puzzle over because a portal was slightly wrong height. Like that's a clear polish problem where there's just a technical thing that's going wrong in this game, and that's unfortunate, and hopefully that gets fixed. There's also that time I flew across the ceiling to solve a puzzle, and that might have not been intended. That might need a patch too. Yeah, but overall, like this is commendable. It's a cool mechanic. It's commitment to make an entire like almost feature length or whatever you want to call it, like a proper length Portal campaign, more or less. But it's like 4 hours or something. It's longer than the original game, at least it was 4 hours for me, I think, or more. There's some editing here because some of these were long puzzles for me. And it's released for free, and it even has some of the better voice acting stuff going on, where it's like it's got the story is relatively bare bones, but it communicates itself fairly well and makes sense as to what it was going to do. It's like, okay, another AI core was trying to figure out like what happened to Gladys and is going to like try to use time travel to defeat Shell, essentially. And then of course we just escape because like, nope, not falling for this. Another rebellious woman that escapes these cores trying to tell them what to do. And there's a couple of good jokes, like actually good jokes, which is unusual for Portal clones and Portal fan expansions. I think I remember a few of them just being like kind of annoying in some of these other games. Like usually the person that talks to you all game is kind of annoying and trying really hard to be Gladys and not succeeding. And the jokes usually fall flat, and the voice actors often just whoever they could get, so that it's not always great at it. It's usually kind of disappointing, and it's just all you're thinking about the whole time is I wish this was Wheatley and I wish this was Gladys, and it's not. This guy was relatively sparse in his lines and only came up like to bookend each chamber briefly, so he wasn't like trying to be center stage of the entire game the way that some of the more poorly written characters are. And then he also genuinely had funny observation and thoughts and so on, which I enjoyed. And just like and obviously it was a great delivery to be like, you have been in stasis for 16 years and 4 decades. Like that switcheroo is like, it's like, oh my god, you bet. Did I say days or years? It was 16 days and 4 decades. Like, oh fuck. And And I remember the joke, that running gag about like, oh, let's test the concept of causality, was being like a little like itself, like the idea of like deterministic time travel stuff, like with like, are we all just doing our fate, or do we have free will, and so on. That little multi-step test was amusing, and probably the best joke was, do not worry, as long as you don't find your corpse, that means you solved this puzzle in the next 20 years. It's like, all right, you got me, buddy. That's just pretty good. But yeah, overall a commendable effort. Just honestly more technical problems than I thought even could be in one of these. Makes me wonder, makes me think about how these are made a little bit. I'm sure that a lot of custom code and weirdness had to go into this because they're introducing an entire new mechanic, and that's just complicated. It's obviously not just a level pack, and if you just did make a level pack in the community hub, the community tools, or whatever the fuck it's called, if you just made a series of community maps, then it probably wouldn't have these weird technical problems of portal placement and stuff, because it would just be running off of normal portal. But obviously that's not an option when you're gonna do something really weird like this. So glad to have played it. And I don't know, hopefully I'll get around to some of these other portal campaigns. It's been like 2 years since the last time I touched Portal, and that's longer than I meant. I try to take a break between playing more games in the same series, which I basically count all these mods as being, just like with like Yakuza and other stuff like that, but 2 years is longer than I meant, which is actually what's happening with Yakuza right now. It's also been waiting longer than I meant. Sorry. But see you guys next time. We'll flip the switch back to indie, then back to Portal, and we'll keep going, not Portal, sorry. Back to indie, then back to puzzle, and back and forth, and make up for lost time, because Hades dominated this slot for a long time. It took me from December to May to finish that game, even for one ending, and there's still more. So I've got a backlog of things I've been meaning to get to, and so hopefully now I will. See you next time.